Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth, Bob Hedlund, questions about the town and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, Ask the Mayor with Bob Hedlund.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, once again to another action-packed, exciting episode of Ask the Mayor. I'm your citizen advocate. After 3 years, I've finally learned my title, Jim Melody. Did I say it right? He's nodding his head. My silent partner over here is the mayor of Weymouth, the great town of Weymouth, Robert Hedlund. How are you today, Bob?
Having a good June, Jim. How is it with the girls home from school for the summer?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that we shoot 2 of these episodes, Bob, but we do.
And we're told that WETC is a little backed up.
Oh, that's right. They may not see this.
We have a few of these in the can.
My kids could be seniors in high school by the time this one comes on. The girls are doing great. Riley is going to be moving.
You'll all be at the beach when this airs.
Sand between your toes. Well, listen, the weather is turning. It is a beautiful day. We've got so much to celebrate, but we're going to move forward.
Beautiful day in what month is it? All right, let's go.
And we're moving forward with some questions, as always, that are sent in by you, the viewers, and the citizens of this town. As always, please keep the questions coming to AskMayorBob@gmail.com. AskMayorBob@gmail.com. That's about what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask Mayor Bob. Robert, are you ready? This one's from Jim Walsh, a fine citizen of the town of Weymouth. And he says, Dear Bob, I live in the Columbian Square area and would like to suggest that the town upgrade the crosswalk in the square similar to the crosswalks at South Shore Hospital. Drivers always stop at those crosswalks while pedestrians in the square are risking their lives when they attempt a crossing. I have noticed and appreciate the many improvements that the town has made in the traffic control and other areas, and it would be great if that situation in Columbian Square could be addressed. Thank you, Jim Walsh, and
Did we get this question recently? Is this like did you put the same question in from
I don't think so, because I'm trying to think of where we got
a very similar question sometime in the last couple of shows. So, real quick.
The crosswalks in the square is similar to the crosswalks at South Shore Hospital, so.
Oh, I get what he's saying.
Okay, go ahead.
No, okay, that was the variation here, because someone asked us about the new pedestrian lights that we put up, crossing lights that we put up as part of our Complete Streets grant that we got, all outside money for that. I get what he's saying. So there's one over on the backside where the cancer building is that he likes that. It's much safer. So there were going to be significant pedestrian crossing upgrades made in the Columbian Square side as part of the plan that was approved and the plan that was in initial phases of design work until L-Star went off the rails over at Union Point, who were funding it as part of the whole MIPA process and mitigation. So we were on to that. We were doing that. It's a great design with the safety improvements and the walkability and pedestrian improvements that were going to happen in Columbian Square. I cannot give you a new timeline until we resolve, obviously, the master developer situation and see some growth in Union Point. And to that, ironically, at this very table earlier today, we had a very good meeting with the new chair of the SRA board.
SRA?
I don't know him that well.
What does SRA stand for?
The Southfield Redevelopment Authority.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
And a Rockland resident was elected by the board to serve as chair. I had a much better feeling after the meeting than I did prior to the meeting. So I know that there's a lot. We should do a little segment on what's happening. Maybe even a development update soon on all things Union Point, because obviously a lot's happened.
I'm up for
the
that.
lenders have taken back the property. Now we're dealing with them. So there's some things in the works over there. It's a much more elongated timeline, obviously, but that was in the works. We get the direction that he wants to go. We agree with it, but I can't give you a timeline at this point.
But
stay tuned.
Flashback to the last show that we just shot. The question came up: when was the last elementary school that was built in this town? Moving back now into the Union Point space, weren't as recently as 10 years ago they were talking about having their own police, fire, and school on that property?
No. But the full build out over there were projections that there could be the need for a new school over there. And there's land set aside theoretically for that purpose in the master agreement. They're probably, not just because of the Union Point needs, but at a much more significant build out, the first thing that'll probably happen would be the need for fire service over there, and not just because of Union Point, but just geographic coverage of South Weymouth.
Okay.
But clearly that's not happening right now either, with that thing coming to a screeching halt. And I know, just to reinforce, that for informational purposes, only 2% of our public safety calls go to Union Point.
Oh, great. So
it's not an impact at the moment, and the amount of school kids in there is negligible right now.
Yeah, it seems like it's everybody I know down there is past retirement age at the end of the day. But what about, as far as the development, if I could ask you, Kyle Corcoran's name's been in the paper. Are they pursuing legal activity against that guy? I mean,
there's multiple lawsuits filed against.
Oh, there is. Okay, yeah, because we heard $70 million in theft.
I'm waiting for when the criminal complaints come down.
So there should be.
I have no idea. I'm speculating.
Right, of course, but there should be some sort of activity relative to his tenure there and what occurred during the course of his time.
One thing I can share with you, I know that he just recently moved out of Cohasset, where he'd been renting about 2 weeks ago, and moved back to North Carolina. So.
I thought it was in the paper that he built like a $5 million mansion or bought a $5 million house or something.
He bought it.
And he's come and gone already, huh?
Yeah, he lost that house.
So stay tuned. All right, I hope those guys get their wagon fixed.
By
the way, Bob, not a bad segue. This is our prop for today. Would you like to explain why Through Finland and Carts was our book of choice today?
Because we needed a new prop, which really is used to symbolize that it's, because sometimes you wear the same outfit.
Me.
Just to give a sense that it's a different episode when someone's going through the station.
Excellent. Well, it's a bookmark, if you
Actually,
will.
Bob Gaudette, from the former proprietor of AAA Movers on Main Street, South Weymouth, brought that in. I guess he came across it somewhere, and he knew I was a finished descent, and he left it here. I haven't yet to read it, though.
And I'll
provide a book review on it later.
I don't ever recall meeting anybody else with Finnish heritage in this area. There's
I'm sure you have.
There's a big Quincy area of the Finns, right, when they first came over here? Yeah, it used to be. Interesting. All right, Bob, let's keep moving forward here. This question's from Don Farbett. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Don. Hi, Mayor. As a lifelong resident of Weymouth in the Lovell's Corner area, I've seen many changes to the intersections of Mutton and Washington Streets. I was happy to see the recent state upgrades to both this intersection and the one at Washington and Pleasant. As I come from the Brad Hawes Park area of Mutton, I find it difficult to take the left-hand turn onto Washington Street regularly, while the cars from the other side of Mutton are able to turn right easily. Would the town and state be willing to create a left turn arrow time slot to allow for better traffic flow for those of us coming from the Brad Hawes Park side of Mutton as we look to head north on Washington? Whoa, this is convoluted.
No, I get it.
So I know where Washington Street is. Where does Mutton and...
I'm not going to explain to you. He knows where
John,
it is.
Jeff will drop in a photo, I'm sure.
It's over near the fire headquarters, Jim.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you. That narrows it right down. And, where is Fire Station 2?
That's on Broad Street, right around the corner.
Oh, right down at the cusp of the landing?
Yeah, and
there's talk about reopening that, huh? Down by Tufts?
During a down... That was a joke. That was a joke. We all know... We know where it is.
There's a photo. Go ahead. Can you help out, Don?
Just off the top of my head, I'm not sure. But we'll have the traffic engineer look at it. But I can tell you that when we know from this show that when those two intersections were done, which, by the way, was a state-funded project with our traffic engineer having input in cycling and things like that, and we're limited on width, so we don't have the opportunity to make 5 lanes wide and turning lanes and everything else, obviously. That section of Mutton is one of the oldest streets. That's Old Pleasant Street. It's one of the oldest streets in the town. Some of our oldest houses are on there, so we're dealing with old cow paths and horse cart paths, right? So we know that when those intersections open, we were getting a lot of grief from people, but it was during a period where they're trying to figure out sequencing. I go through the Washington and Pleasant one every day, and I can tell you it's a heck of a lot better with the new design than it was long before. And yes, there were some inconveniences when they were getting the timing and the sequencing down. So we can do the same thing. We can look at that, and if there's something that needs to be done, but I'll put it on Owen's plate. And by the way, we have We don't have a highway superintendent. We have a traffic engineer. He's very busy, let's put it that way. Other communities around us have highway superintendents, including smaller towns to the south of us. We like to make do with less in Weymouth, okay? Because we're fiscally conservative. But I'm going to put it on his plate.
And can you also introduce the concept of sequencing the lights around town when one is traveling down Pleasant Street?
No. We've had this discussion off camera.
Yes,
He was
did.
inconvenienced today, so he wants every light sequenced to wherever it is. We'll give you one of those optics that the police have.
I was
so that
hoping
we're not coming
I
up
could
on
maybe
it.
qualify for the Mayor Hedlund special decoder ring.
Trying to
but
make
that's
excuses as to why he was late again for this taping.
21 minutes from South Weymouth. It's too much. All right. Maybe I should take one of those little mutton paths.
This is a very long question. I think you need to get to it.
Yeah, this may be the shortest question in the history of our show. It's from Keith Del Vecchio, who is a regular contributor to all things happening in Weymouth. Keith wants to know, dear Mayor, what are you doing? What are you doing in any way to attract a branded hotel chain in Weymouth, my friend? What are you doing to bring a branded hotel chain? Keith, I don't know why we need one, but Bob, what's your thoughts on
I think
the
I know what he
matter?
means by branded.
Motel 6?
Yeah,
I think the Four Seasons is
they're coming
not
over from
interesting.
Braintree. They're coming over from Braintree.
The branded hotels. Okay.
So, obviously,
Yes.
the projections with the build-out we had, with all of the amenities at Union Point, the consensus from planners, from the developer, although we learned that we have to take anything the developer said with a grain of salt.
You mean you can't trust a developer?
No.
Holy smokes.
So there was likely going to be a couple of branded hotels in there. This seems like the market called for that based on what the build-out projections were. Obviously, when a branded hotel looks to site, they look at location, they look at demographics.
When you say
And
branded,
they
he's
like
talking
to-
like a brand name hotel, right? I was joking about Motel Holiday Inn. Is that what he's talking about when he talks about branded hotels? A
Yes.
national brand name we would know?
Yes,
Okay, I've never heard that phrase before. All right, go ahead.
something a little more upscale than what the two offerings we have in town are.
Okay. Is the BOMO still open?
So, no, it's not. It may be again, but that's to be determined. So, they look at a number of factors, obviously, and they like to be clustered. That's why you usually see hotels around other hotels.
Jeez, around by the Home Depot in Rockland, there's like a Best
That would
Western.
be an
Yeah, there's like
example
3 or
of that,
4.
yes.
Yeah, I never thought
So
of that.
we have very limited space here other than Union Point. We do have the attraction of location close to Boston. We have access, in some cases, to interchanges where they like to be. So it's a narrow window of opportunity to really get a branded hotel here, especially with things stalled at Union Point. I do think you'll see one in there someday. I will say that there is one location here in town that would meet that geographic criteria. I can't speak for the demographics, but the geographic location would be desirable for a hotel, and I can tell you that our planning director has taken a personal interest. This is one of his bugaboos. It drives him crazy that we don't have a branded hotel here in town, too.
Oh, no, Bob thinks we have.
And he has personally pitched a site that is currently an operating business that we have been informed will be going away at some point. So he is being proactive, and that was the first usage that came to his mind that he would like to, as town planner, see go there. So I know that he is actively pitching that location to hotel chains.
Boy, on the list of national chains.
In his
I'd
free
like-
time, because he works about 1 million hours a week also.
On the list of national chains I'd like to see come to this town, the need for a hotel or motel doesn't seem overly.
And I'm not going to
prescient.
reveal the location. The viewer is probably asking at home, well, where is it? But the business is still operating, and they were kind enough to give us a heads up, so I don't want to have to kind of throw them under the bus and possibly impact their sales volume or whatever.
Well, if you're
In fact, it's a business. I'll say this. It's a business that's interesting in that the analogy to the hotel situation is I never understood how this business, given the demographics, wound up in Weymouth. It's the type of business you might think you would see in a more Tony town than Weymouth. And Mary's making a face. But there's a reason.
We're all scratching our head.
No, I mean, we're a working class, blue collar community. We're not Hingham. That's why when you see a Lexus dealership locate, why are they in Hingham and not Weymouth? That's why when you see Red Eye Roasters, why are they in Hingham and we get a Dunkin' Donuts kiosk? Okay, why does Hingham get a Burton's and a Legal Seafood and we get another pizza place?
Because the market research is done.
It's a reality.
Honestly, the market research is done, and the demographic support.
So anyway, this particular business, I went in once, and I almost had a heart attack, and I ran out.
Because it was so high end?
Yes.
Oh. Well, listen, let's leave Whole Foods out of this. Anyway, moving
No,
forward.
I go to Whole Foods. I go to Whole Foods. Whole Foods, no, I don't think Whole
You need
Foods.
to take a bank loan if you're going to go shopping there.
For certain things, but Whole Foods is not the analogy. I think it's great we got a Whole Foods here in town. It's great we got a Starbucks. And I think we're moving in that direction. I think there's nothing wrong with retailers viewing Weymouth as up and coming and locating. I think that's a good thing. Of course, yesterday I was informed that we had Taco Bell looking at a location here in Weymouth yesterday. So
Well, to accommodate all the new Weymouth citizens.
So it's not going to be a Burton's or a Legal. It might be a Taco Bell, but we'll see what happens.
Listen, on my list.
Let's get to some questions.
Wait a minute, on my list, since we're in the talking about it, how about a Krispy Kreme or maybe a? I want an Arby's. Can we get an Arby's up here for heaven's sakes? As we like to toss around the humorous jokes, I am not a fast food guy on any level. All right, that's just my wish list at the end of the day. But
Okay,
this one,
now,
we're gonna need a sandwich before I come.
Now, Mr. DeValchio, here's the answer
Yeah.
why we don't have a branded hotel.
Maybe a Red Lobster, I don't know. I can work with you. All right, listen, we're moving on from development and national chains. Let's go back to the homespun question from Dear Gary, Jerry Mahar, or it could be Mathers from the Beaver, I don't know. Jerry Mahar, do you know Jerry?
No, but I can pronounce it.
All right, what's your interpretation of
Jerry Mayer.
Mayor, okay, Mayor.
Mahar.
Ask the mayor. Ask the mayor is asking the mayor.
I would say that's pronounced. You're Irish? You tell me.
Is this?
Ask the mayor. Mahar? Mayor? Mahar?
Irish?
Jerry Mayer.
Looks more German than me there, Hedlund. All right, listen, dear Mayor, this one's involved, so put your seatbelt on. I have concerns with all these multiple-use properties with vacant spaces on the bottom floor. Do you still believe that they are viable retail locations? Maybe for that Arby's, perhaps. What type of business do you think will rent here? Landing 53 has rented all of its apartments at the Landing, but not one retail space. This goes on to
Well,
give me
wait
a
a minute.
sense.
Now, he says here.
Yes.
So is he a Braintree resident or a Weymouth resident?
it's,
Because Landing 53 is in Braintree.
Technically in Braintree. It doesn't, actually, it says Granville Street, which I presume.
Okay, so he's...
That's the land.
Granite, it's Granite, not Granville.
Okay,
I need my
okay,
glasses.
but I just wanted to point that out.
And Granite Street is in
All right,
Massachusetts?
we got to get
Okay,
rolling.
sorry. All right, now Weymouth is adding more of these multi-use properties. DeLagus Passport on the corner of the Front Street and Grotto's building that backs up to the new library. Please explain exactly the thinking on these buildings. If ever fully rented, where do the customers park? I know they say that the younger generation will use public transportation, but when they are not working, they are going to drive. The Landing has 2 new restaurants and no places for patrons to park. I watched the town council meeting when they gave the approval of the DeLagus project, and the lone dissenter was Mike Melise, who pointed out these same objections. I live near the Landing, but would drive to a restaurant and parking would be questionable.
Melissa's objections also had to do with the history between the developer and the town also.
All right, well, and we'll get, you can, I'll give you a rebuttal because this is one final component of this question. Weymouth doesn't have a center like Quincy where maybe this multi-use property component concept would work, but Weymouth is too spread out and there's no concentration in one, for a retail community in any one sector. Is there a chance that you and the building department would rethink this type of expansion? And once again, that's from Jerry Maha.
Great question.
Yeah,
I just disagree with a couple of premises
Right, so
here,
parking
maybe, or context.
Okay.
So-
two primary
so
issues,
first
it
of
seems like
all-
the use
first
of
of
those spaces and where they got to park.
First of all, the town went through an exhaustive study years, many years before I became mayor. In 2004, they started having MAPC look at the Landing because the Landing was...
Sorry, I always have to jump in. MAPC is?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
The Metropolitan Area Planning Council. So, the Landing, if you go back in time and look at the Landing at that point, it was dead. You didn't have to worry about parking because there were no businesses in the landing.
As
You could
recently
go
as
down to El
2000?
Serape
Yeah.
and you could get an on-street parking spot anytime you want.
Yeah.
You could go to the shoe cobbler and get a parking spot anytime, night or day.
Sells your music.
And I know this because in 2010, I got involved in a business down there, and it was a ghost town. It was a ghost town. In fact, the business we took over was closed up. Brick Grill was closed up. All the storefronts between Old Helen's and the shoe cobbler or the barber were empty.
This is as recently as 2010,
Let me go on my riff, brother.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's not that long ago. Go ahead.
All right, you keep interrupting me on this one because I'm loaded for bear on this one.
Go ahead.
So the study was done. The town looked at it, felt it made sense. Your council, including Mike Melise, since he brought up Councilor Melise's name, voted for and approved a zoning overlay change to give incentive to people who wanted to invest in the landing and developers to actually do something down there because the status quo at that time wasn't working. It wasn't 1950 anymore, and I know because my grandfather had a diner there post-World War II up until 1978, and things changed, and it wasn't the commercial center that it once was. It was a desolate, burned-out area.
White's Bakery.
They were gone.
Yeah, no, I used to go.
Yeah.
Loved it.
So the town made that change, and now these are the results of the change. Now, there's one distinction, and I hate to be criticizing anything Braintree did, but I'll make a distinction here and say that maybe the Landing 53 project gave that zoning change a bad name. What they did in allowing that, and I was at the planning board meetings for Landing 53. I was at every single one of them. And I will tell you that I think they went too far with that. They sold that developer municipal parking. We have no intention of doing that. In fact, the DeLagus project, we're increasing our municipal parking spaces. So we disagree with that. The parking ratio that we require on these mixed-use projects is much higher than what Braintree approved for Mr. Katzen and Landing 53. Katzen, ironically, got a tax break on the entire project. He got a tax break on his residential units, which I disagree that you need to provide tax breaks for any residential component these days, given maybe an affordable project or something like that, but not a for-profit project like that. The market is too strong, and he rented that place out instantaneously, so I disagree with that. So what we're doing on the Weymouth side is a heck of a lot different. I will tell you that firsthand, I will tell you, as someone who's looked at them before I even became mayor, someone who is in business in the landing, Katzen's at Landing 53 retail component is an afterthought. That was the excuse to call it a mixed-use building and get the density that he got. Now, I don't understand, and I'm going to get in trouble here, but Joe Sullivan's not running for re-election, I learned last night, so I can vent a little more.
Too bad.
But I do not understand how the Braintree Planning Board approved a building with retail on the first floor, and you look at the zoning, and that's supposed to be kind of a centerpiece of this, and there is no accommodation for deliveries. So if a delivery truck needs to pull up to service those businesses, they're literally going to park in the street and tie up a lane in the most congested intersection in Braintree and Weymouth, even though it's in Braintree. There is no accommodation for you to have a dumpster or rubbish. You're going to have to somehow lug it out the front door and bring it around and go up the alley. So, I could go a little further in my rhetoric here, but the Braintree Planning Board approved something that I promise you, the Weymouth Planning Board, as long as I'm mayor, never would have approved, ever.
Sounds
ever.
ridiculous.
And we have a problem managing parking down there. That developer somehow got control of the remaining spaces, okay? And my fear is that when the DeLagus project is built, as we increase our municipal parking, which I want to service Weymouth business customers.
For the obvious reason.
That isn't going to be taken over by Katzon's residents, the way they've taken over Braintree's municipal lot. So that's going to be a challenge to manage that. And I don't want to get into talking about building walls and things, but we have not, I'll go on record with this at this point. This is breaking news here. So we have gotten zero cooperation from Josh Katzon and Landing 53 with our daylighting project and with some of the stuff going on the Weymouth side. And, you know, if it means a barrier at some point because of the lack of cooperation we get, we may have to do that. That's not what the intention was at the time the MAPC did what they did. And by the way, he mentioned Passport. Well, Passport is a good example of a mixed use. They do have an operating business on the first floor. And I can guarantee you that DeLagus, his project, the retail, it's not where he's going to make his money. He's going to make his money on the residential, but I can tell you, from a planning standpoint and as a design of a building, that the retail is a focal point. And I think his retail is going to work. And there's actually parking for his retail. There's actually a place to put a dumpster. There's actually great entrance and egress to it. So we think he's going to be successful in leasing that out. And with the TIF that he got, that's passed along to the retail operator. So it's going to be a very attractive rent situation too.
Well, that's a very involved answer to a very involved question, and you're blowing me away with these.
And I agree, the parking stinks.
I mean, but Braintree,
I don't control Braintree.
But son of a gun, the way that, as you said, no access for deliveries, no access to take their trash out. I mean, jeepers. I mean, that's the way you're running the business, obviously.
There's a reason why he doesn't have a tenant.
Yeah, holy smokes. So, in sum, we're going to build a wall and make Braintree pay for it. Well, that's my sense of humor. All right, we're moving forward. All right, listen, we have to wrap up this episode.
I'd like to make Landing 53 pay for it.
We need to wrap up this episode of Ask the Mayor. We want to thank everybody for these phenomenal questions. We want to remind everybody, as always, keep the questions coming to AskMayorBob@gmail.com. AskMayorBob@gmail.com.
It's a shame we didn't get to that last one.
Do that one. Do that one.
Well,
we can?
I'm looking for one that's going to take 2 minutes. And
which
one did you have in mind? Because we do have a few to select from.
What was the one that had to do with, wasn't there another hotel one or something?
Well,
no, this one.
Good.
This goes hand in hand with the hotel.
That's the one I pulled out.
All right,
Great.
all right.
Dear Mayor, from our good buddy Jason Thayer, by the way. Jay, thanks for the questions, as always. Dear Mayor, I was curious about the abandoned restaurant beside the Dunkin's in North Weymouth at 655 Bridge Street near Lowe's. Seems that no business lasts there. How about a Chick-fil-A? Hey, that should have been on my
Burger
list.
King seemed to last there for a while.
I bet it would have brought in lots of business to Weymouth, opinions and thoughts. And Mary put her own note here, said there's been a whole bunch of buildings and businesses there. Previous restaurants include Buddy's, the Burger King, the Rose and Vicky's. Yeah, that seems like a great spot. Rose and Vicky's is
What was the one? What was the one that was there before Buddy's?
What a
the guy
great-
had the bake. Was that Rose and Vicky's? The guy had the bakery. What was that thing?
I never used to go by.
The guy was an older guy. He was always in there. He was greeting people.
It's a great location. How can that location not be successful?
Because it's not a great location.
Well, it's everybody on their way home. Come on, you stop in and get something to eat on your way home.
And where are they going?
Hingham, Hull, Situate.
There you go.
Well, it's a commuter spot. But anyway, go ahead. What's your thoughts?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Chick-fil-A, we're ruling Chick-fil-A out.
would love to have a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, awesome.
They're opening in an old Burger King in Hanover.
Oh, are you kidding me? When's that coming around?
They just announced it.
Oh, son of a
So,
gun.
yeah, I miss the Burger King. I mean, I used to sneak out of school when I had my license. Me and a buddy would sneak off campus and drive to Burger King.
Woo!
Get a chicken sandwich, a hamburger, and onion rings, and go up Great Hill.
I used to see you there.
It was a little respite from the rigors.
Of high school?
Of that academic stressful environment I was in my junior and senior year.
In wood class.
Remind me to tell you the story of wood class when my woodshop teacher took a hammer and smashed my bookcase into splinters.
I was shocked when Hingham has vocational classes at high school, which I find just as interesting.
And I really needed to go to Burger King that day after he smashed my bookcase.
Oh, hey now.
So
what do you think?
I don't understand that site. It doesn't work for whatever reason. 3A corridor for some reason. I mean, McDonald's closed. Oh, haven't you seen McDonald's closed? Remember they closed up the street?
Oh, yeah, geez, never.
I don't understand it. But
who owns the space? You know who owns the property?
Planning's had interaction with the guy that owns the property. Okay. So, since I've been mayor, Taco Bell came in and they wanted to go there.
Boy, you just said that. Yes, shoot.
They unveiled a plan that blew my mind. They showed us conceptuals. It was some modernistic new Taco Bell design they have, and it looked beautiful. It looked beautiful.
Does it still sell Taco Bell?
I was
food?
excited. I was excited. And then they, for whatever reason, they bailed.
Yikes.
Now they're
Good.
looking. Now they're looking at a different spot in Weymouth, by the way.
Bad. Oh, how do you say? What do you say? How do you say bad in Spanish?
Wow.
Bueno. Yeah, no bueno.
Okay. Well, you'll like the other location. It's pretty close to that, actually, but I don't understand why one worked and the other, whatever. Those guys do much better, make more money than you and I combined.
Yeah,
They're onto
I don't-
something. They know what they're doing.
I don't
Anyway,
doubt it. Good.
so we had another proposal for that site recently, which wouldn't have been too welcomed. An Uber pool lot.
Yeah, no thanks.
Uber guys congregate there.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
can
wouldn't that
switch
be
off,
great?
or you carpool, you meet there,
Phenomenal.
and you
Excellent.
share an Uber.
Dynamite.
Wouldn't have been so great. I don't think North Weymouth Civic would have been at the licensing board.
The Republic, they would have divorced you.
So those are the only two things that I'm aware of that people looked at there. I don't understand why it doesn't work, but yeah, that would be great. I'd love to see a Chick-fil-A there.
Well, who wouldn't, I suppose, at the end of the day? Oh, let's not forget about Arby's. If Arby's people, if you're out there.
We'll see you at the Taco Bell ribbon cutting real soon.
Ba-da-da-da-da-bum-ba. Any thoughts, Bob, as we look to wrap up this episode?
Who are we closing with? Stay tuned for
Well, you know, when we were talking about the vote for on the new school, how about that we can segue back then to welcome back Carter? Maybe?
No.
No.
We already hit the school one.
Okay.
I got one, man. It never made SBK. It should have been in reruns and syndication, but it was my favorite show for a little while in the mid-'70s. Ted Lang as Junior in That's My Mama. Stay tuned for That's My Mama.
Oh, never even heard of it.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.
I'm the ribbon homemaker.